I thought, well, instead of developing a very simple noise module that goes shh, I should come up with something that is more that you can use for much more things. And I fell back on something that an idea that I had maybe in the year 1980 or something, when I was experimenting with CMOS chips that are shift registers and little things, and just playing around with them. And I just came up with a very simple circuit that can be used to make all sorts of different signals. And it's called a Rungler, because I haven't seen this circuit built by anyone or sold by anyone else. And so I thought, well, okay, then I can give it I can name it. And I have tried several names, Googled the names on internet, and suddenly the word Rungler came up in my mind. I Googled it and there were no hits, so I thought, okay, then Rungler, that's going to be the name for this new thing. It's a Rungler. Basically, it's a circuit that is driven by two oscillators, and it creates sort of interference patterns between these two oscillators. But in this interference pattern, sort of a time delay is present. And it's a relatively very short time delay, and it's also just a 1-bit signal that later is converted to more signal. And basically what it does is this. I can sort of let you listen to the signal first. Like this. It in this mode, basically this type of Rungler has 5 modes. In this mode, it actually works as a sort of digital noise clock, as you can hear. It can also be in a mode where it only changes now and then. And faster and faster and faster. And there's a mode where it always changes, no matter the settings of the knobs. And you get this sort of sounds. But the interesting thing is that in the random mode, if the second oscillator is tuned higher as the first one, you also get sort of like a noise pattern, but that loops quicker than the normal digital noise that should only repeat every once in 150 years or something. And it sounds a little bit like if you have a delay that's looping. So if I lower this frequency, you go back to noise again. And you hear that every time when I make it loop, it has a slightly different kind of sound to it. In this mode where it changes slowly, the same thing happens, because if this one is tuned lower, then you have constant change, and in this mode it holds. Now this can also be at a very slow rate, which means that basically you get sort of like a stepped signal. So if I would now listen to an oscillator and use this signal to modulate the pitch of the oscillator, you hear a short sequence of exactly 32 notes. And if I want to have another pattern, I can let it slowly change until it does something which I think, okay, that's fine. Or you can just put it in random mode. And let it go there. It is a sort of a chaotic system according to chaos theory, meaning that it is a system that actually has many possible balanced states. It will always try to find and stay in one balanced state, and when you bring it out of balance, it will go and find another balanced state and stay in that other state. So that means that you can basically have a whole range of relatively short patterns that and it will not. That basically is it's endless. There's no limit to the amount of balanced states that are possible. Now, basically, this is driven by two oscillators, and we can listen to the sounds of these oscillators. The first oscillator is exactly similar to the first LFO that we had in this module, and it also has this sort of fluctuation modulation. And because I can now fluctuate it with a signal that is also audio frequency with the second oscillator, we can hear an interesting effect, that is that fluctuation also can cause sort of a soft sync effect. Okay. The stepped signal that we have, we can also feed back into the frequency of the first oscillator, and that can create all sorts of different effects. We also have a smoothed signal and a pulsed signal available that are derived from the stepped signal. So, for instance, if I go back to the modulation of the oscillator, now it is the stepped signal. The smoothest signal is sort of a filtered stepped signal, and the pulsed signal only has two states, on or off. And you can make sort of a Morse effect with it. Okay. If you listen to the first oscillator, we can modulate it with a stepped signal. We can modulate it with the pulsed signal. And we can modulate it with a smoothed signal. which actually works on the fluctuation modulation to give sort of a randomly signal. And of course we can combine everything and create all different sorts of bands in the spectrum with sonic energy or not. Okay, you can also clock this Rungler from an external signal. So if I listen to this oscillator, I can take the full out signal of the oscillator and clock the Rungler with it, and then like use the stepped signal to go back and create the pitch. So basically now this audio oscillator is taking over the clock function of the first oscillator in the Rungler, and you can use the wave shaping of the oscillator to create specific timbres. So the knob on this oscillator doesn't really work now because it is taken over by the clock. Still, it has an effect on the smoothed signal. So if I now feed back the smoothed signal into the oscillator, I can actually set the speed of the modulation or filter it out and let it go really slow. And if I use the pulsed signal, we can go to all sorts of different sonic worlds, and of course now we can use the LFOs and start modulating this and create very complex soundscapes.